Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today we will go over how to use luminosity masks and why you use them. So here we're going to take this photo here and basically make it into this one by the time we're done. I use the Sony a7R II, which has phenomenal dynamic range, so that really helps. So let's get started. Okay, so I want to start out with, scroll down to remove chromatic aberration, enable profile corrections. You can see this says none. It's because I have to use an adapter for my Tamron lens, which is set for Canon to fit onto my Sony. So just come down, you can see 70 to 200 lens is what I used. Okay, so now let's scroll down. I always like to use the blue primary and see how it kind of just brings out some yellows a little bit. Kind of enhances the sky a little bit. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead and open up some shadows, bring in some detail, bring down the highlights a little bit, add a little bit of contrast. You can see we haven't quite hit the blown out side, so let's increase the exposure a little bit as well. Let's go a little bit of vibrance, and then add a little bit of magenta. Okay, and then we'll come down here. Let's just get rid of the sharpenings. We'll deal with that at the very end. And from here, let's go ahead and import it into Photoshop. So go down to right click, edit in Adobe Photoshop. Okay, so we're now open in Photoshop, and the program I use, actually two of them are made by Jimmy McIntyre. The first one is Raya Pro, and it does luminosity masks, precision masks, quick blending, a lot of things you can do with it. He also has what's called Instamask, and this is one I prefer. It's a little simpler. Each one has their advantages, so I kind of jump back and forth. But so to get started, I really like to enhance the lights inside the buildings here. So you come up here to select cull, which is select color. You click on that one, and it builds some histograms, and then it gives you a little color pointer. We'll just come down here and just click on the yellow, just like that, and click OK. And what it does is it makes a mask of just all the lights, and you can change those a little bit with these sliders here. You can slide these down. You can see it gets rid of some of the clouds. You can bring up, some colors, because remember, black conceals and white reveals. So I think that's pretty good. And then I do want to get rid of the clouds here, so let's go ahead and make a smaller brush. Move this to black, and we'll leave that normal, which is fine. Just kind of get rid of the clouds there, so we can just have strictly the lights of the buildings. Okay, then what we want to do is make what do we want? Let's do a curves adjustment. So it takes this mask and makes a curves adjustment out of it. Now as we bring up the highlights, you can see it's just the lights in the buildings are changing. So it makes it just really easy to do certain things. And we can bring that down. Okay, and then so from there, now that we have this mask built, we can also, let's say we want to do a brightness contrast adjustment, right? So if we go over here and, it's brightening everything, which is not what we want. We just want just the lights. So if you hold the Alt or Option button and click on the mask on your curves, you can drag it up to your brightness contrast. Now, I should change the brightness. You can see it's just what was yellow in the buildings, all the lights. So I'd kind of like to bring them up, and you add the contrast or not. Then we can also make another one too if we wanted to or whatnot. But from here, I'd like to definitely change the buildings a little bit. And what we'll do is come up here to select color. So if we come down here, let's just pick a kind of a grayish blue here. Do that one, click OK. By the time we're done, so you can see however it is a lot brighter, but again, still want to kind of get rid of the clouds. Brush those out. Something like that. And then let's go ahead and click let's do a levels adjustment. Something like this, and then we can change, make them a little brighter. Kind of something like that. I think that'll work. And then I would like to do a hue saturation layer on this one. So let's go ahead and click the hue saturation. Then let's drag up the mask. And let's kind of, actually let's leave that. Let's click on the hand and we can choose the color here. Choose the blues. So just kind of darken up a little bit of saturation. And a little more blue. Something kind of like that. Okay, now I think I want to do something with the sky here. So let's go ahead and do another select color mask. Okay, now I want to click on the pink layer, so if we just click there, click OK. So you can see what we have now. You know, it's pretty much just chosen all the pinks, a little bit of yellows in here, which is fine. But if we want to, we can kind of, you know, darken up some more of that. Let's see, just kind of change this a little bit. And go something kind of like that. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to do just a dodge burn layer, so I can just kind of highlight the colors of this guy. So hit the D and B button, gives kind of a 50% gray mask. Then what we'll do is we'll come down here to the color and just kind of slide that up so it's just a little brighter. And you can also, if you want to change the color, you can drag the hue around. So you can add more yellow, red, blue, or whatever, but drag it back up to where it was. Let's try something like that. And I'll try just a big brush. You can see when it changed to the dodge burn layer, it moved this to soft light. And I also like to drag the opacity down to say something like 25% or so. And I'll just kind of color in all this. So it's done thinking here. You know, so just a little bit of extra color here. Then we can come down, color those in. Add a little bit more pink. Let's go up into the clouds a little bit. Kind of down into here. So it's done thinking here. Okay, and then you can see if we want, we can also drag the opacity up and it'll get a little bit more color to it, or, you know, it's 100%. Yeah. And you can see what I did, how I did actually color the Space Needle there, but, you know, I kind of like it. Kind of separates the color of the Space Needle compared to all the other buildings, so that's kind of why I did that. It's actually not bad at 100%. Yeah, let's bring it down just a little bit. So that's actually not looking too bad. Anything else we want to do? So I think from here, let's go ahead and merge all the layers. So Option Command Shift E. It'll make a complete merged layer here, because with that merged layer, we're able to come to Filters, Knit Collection, and go to Color Effects Pro 4. If you don't merge all the layers, you can't use the filters, so that's just why I do that. So once this opens up, we'll continue with the edit. Okay, Color Effects Pro 4 is up, and mine starts out on this Pro Contrast. I don't know, it seems to change every now and then, but as you drag your sliders, you can kind of see how it's changing here. That adds quite a bit of green. So this color correct cast, I usually leave that one off. I'm just gonna drag these down a little bit. Okay, and you can see this line here, you can drag it and see how it's changed. And let's add the filter, go to tonal contrast, and unfortunately defaults are way too high, so let's go ahead and change these. I usually go highlights 10, midtones 15, shadows 10, saturation 0, and then that way you can just kind of slide the saturation to whatever, however much you want. Now this one does add a lot of noise, and so if we zoom in here, let's go to 100, kind of drag this around, especially like when you get up in the clouds. See all the grain up in here? So usually what I like to do, drop back down to 12.5%, is they have, you can delete, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Anyway, if you hit this little minus button, comes up with this little grid here, and you can control the size of this and your opacity, and this basically negates the effect. So I like to drag them around and just kind of cover the whole sky. Fortunately, you have to kind of make a lot of them to get it to do what you want. Let's actually make them a little smaller so we can get down closer. Bring them up bigger again for the sky. So just kind of keep repeating the process until you have what you want. I don't know why that's in the way. So just kind of keep doing this. Let's go back to this one. Actually, I'll drag this down here, but then we'll make it smaller so we can get a couple more tighter areas. Okay, so from here, what you can do is click the little arrow next to control points and click the little square. You can see what all the black is concealing it. All right, so let's go back up. Let's turn that off. So let's kind of keep going with these ones to get more up the corner here. Okay, and then as you can see, as I hit that again, see down here it's pretty grayed out, so it's not getting full effect. So what I want to do on that is go ahead and hit the plus button, and then we'll come down here and use it for the city to make sure we get lots of the city done exactly how we want it to look. So you just kind of keep making a bunch of these, and it actually does a pretty good job of figuring out, you know, a decent mask for the photos. Just kind of drag a few of these around, come up into here, and then we hit the little square again. See how it's really white now, so it gets lots of effects down in the city. So I think I'm good with that. Go ahead and close that up, and then so you can see what we've done already, how we've really changed it. So from here, I would like to hit the skylight filter. See, as we turn that one on and off, it just kind of really brings out the colors of the sky. Tone it down just a little bit. So something kind of like that. Yes, so I think we'll stick with that for now. Let's go ahead and click OK, and then we'll wait for it to open back up in Photoshop. Alright, so we are back in Photoshop. And the reason I like to use color effects of 4 in Photoshop is because once it's here, you can actually change the opacity. So if you think you overdid it in color effects, you can just move that down, and then everything works just fine. But I think what I'd like to do from here is, let's do something with the city here. So I think if we make a brightness contrast, and let's drag up the mask from this hue saturation layer, and then go ahead and see what we can do here. We have the brightness of the city. something kind of like that. Kind of like that, because this was sunrise, so you know the city does start to look pretty blue. However, I think I would like to kind of desaturate some of the blue. So let's go to the hue saturation layer, and then same thing. Let's drag up the mask again. Then we can kind of let's bring down the saturation just a little bit. There, that's looking better. And we want to darken it. Nah, let's kind of add some haze, seems to. So put that back to 0. Not quite that much. I think that looks pretty good. So I think we'll leave it at that. So you can see here, we started out at 241.3 megabytes. Now we're at 1.28 gigs. So from here, let's go ahead and flatten the image. So you have to layer, flatten image. And what that'll do is it takes all the layers, puts them back into one at just over 240 megabytes. So it's a much easier file to work with. Because otherwise, if you try and close this down and open it up in Lightroom, it's just a massive file and everything just bogs down. So I like to flatten them, make them smaller. You can see, oh, it is still 241. Much easier to deal with. So from here, we can just close this out, click the save button, then we'll go back into Lightroom and it'll be all opened up. Okay, we're open up in Lightroom and it looks pretty good. What I do want to add is a little radial filter here and just kind of brighten up the top of the Space Needle. So let's drag the exposure of that up just a little bit. Something kind of like that. I wish there was a way to hide this crane right here, but unfortunately they put it up a few months ago to build something, but at least it doesn't have lights all over it, so that works pretty well. So I think we'll do that. And let's go ahead and what do we want to do? I'll bump up the whole exposure here. I could open up the shadows a little bit more. Actually, that makes it a little kind of hazy. A little bit of contrast. Just a little bit of magenta. And a touch of yellow. And that looks pretty good. Well, let's go ahead and check the sharpening. So we zoom in. That looks pretty good. You can see how since we use those minus filtered buttons on Pro 4, that's not all grainy up in the sky. So it's actually looking pretty good, but let's just go ahead and sharpen it anyway. So if I drag the sharpening, you can see how it gets all kind of grainy. We'll drag the radius down, detail all the way up, and then click the Alt or Option button and slide your masking. You can see, okay, whatever's white gets sharpened, whatever's black does not. So it just kind of does the edges of the building. Let's add just a little bit of noise reduction, kind of smooth out. If you add too much though, noise reduction, you can see it just kind of gets blurry. You know, you lose the sharpness of your photo. So you definitely don't want to do that. So I usually keep it definitely below 30. Get rid of the color noise just to make sure there's none in there. And I think that's about it. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of vignetting, kind of close it in so your eye just kind of comes straight to the Space Needle there. And then I think, no, that's too much. And then that's about it. So that is the reason we use luminosity masks. It makes editing a lot easier. You can really pinpoint what you want to edit, whether it's color, luminosity, you know, anything. It just makes life so much easier. You can see how we, you know, did just the lights of the buildings or just the shape of the city by choosing color or luminosity. You know, did just the pinks and the sky, and that was it. It's definitely something to learn. Do not be afraid of them, you know, because it's, if you screw it up, you just delete the layer, you know, start over. It's not a big deal. There are many different companies. There's Jimmy McIntyre with Raya Pro and Instamask. There's Lumenzia. There's the TK Actions, and a handful of others. And, you know, just kind of pick one that works best for you. I really like the Instamask and Raya Pro, because Raya Pro has other features as well that I really like using. Anyway, thanks for watching. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at RandyBotPhotography, and I'll see you next time.